All right, welcome back to the Download Illuvium news. We have got a killer episode for you today. Kieran is going to be coming on in 30 minutes. He hasn't responded to any of my messages today, but should be fine. He normally comes on perfectly fine. And we're going to have a really awesome chat to him about everything Illuvium, the current arena, the MMO-Lite, a little bit on Illuvium Zero, Leviathan mode, all the rest of it. I'm going to get to all of the questions. Until then, we're going to have our normal episode of the download, really condense it in. We don't have too much to talk about, but a lot has been happening. How are you going today, Taryn?
Yeah, good. And I will address something very quickly. Dennis is saying, "Why are we late? Am I drunk?" This is going to be one of the first downloads in a long time that I'm not drinking. So a completely sober Taryn is here for this one.
We are late just because we are late. Things happen. Anyways, the first thing I wanted to say quickly before we get into the sheet today is testnet. You've played it, right? What do you think? Like, honest, unfiltered thoughts.
Okay, give me one very. Okay, whatever. I think that's fine. All right, whatever. Yeah, honest, unfiltered thoughts. I like it. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. I think the carousel. I think they implemented the carousel a little bit too soon. I can understand why they did it to show that, hey, this is where we're at with it. Is that the right decision? I don't know. Did it add to the experience? Not for me. In terms of the fragments, is that what they're called?
Yep.
Yeah, the fragments were cool.
Stick with it.
I really do like that. I think once we remove the armor and the weapons, or change that, whatever that looks like, I think it's quite good. But I think it's a huge step up from what we had on mainnet to testnet, with a few things that needs to be optimized. But yeah, it feels like it's like I've been going into Discord, seeing who wants to play. I know now everyone's trying to, especially with this tournament or competition, everyone's playing mainnet and grinding that. But I've been trying to go in and be like, oh, who's down for a testnet match? Like I genuinely want to be playing more of it. I know some people, I don't know. It's been interesting speaking to some of the top players. I'm very much a casual, and I've heard conversations of, oh, 3 augments. It just makes things overpowered. As a casual player, I love it. Like, it makes it so much more fun, so much exciting. I want to get the, like, I think I had when I played, the best thing I had was like 4 mud, 3 verdant, or some insane shit like that. And I was like, I just feel like a beast. So I really do like the direction that it's going in, and the steps that have been taken. That's my keen to hear what you think.
I didn't realize just how much of the synergy stacking was my favorite part of Illuvium. And just, it was so much fun. Now, like, full transparency, I've only played one testnet match against bots. I didn't have the carousel in it. I didn't get the chance to try that out. I was away. I wasn't at my home PC. The point is, I actually really enjoyed it, especially the synergy stacking stuff. What really excited about me about it in particular, though, was that I always felt like every team felt samey in the game. Okay, now sure, a meta forms and maybe certain synergies are strong, but really, like, you have 5 tier 5 alluvials, and you always have one of them on your team, no matter what. And out of the tier 4s, there's 3 or 4 that you pretty much always need to have on your team to have a coherent team. But now, with synergies being highly accessible and a really big part of the overall strategy, you might not want a Twine or a Null or a Titanor. You might be like, okay, I've got 2 magma chips. We're going magma. Or I've got like 1 verdant, 1 mud. I can go a little bit harder to really try and cement that mud. It's going to help me out. And I feel like it forces people to diversify their teams a bit. And I personally think that's really exciting. And that's what, like, revved me up the most about it. It was the most fun I had in Arena by far. The new item system, so much better. Like, I always felt items were kind of busted. Like,
You
there's
mean
always
augments,
one.
right?
Yeah, augments. There's always one that's like particularly broken. Like, it doesn't have to be like super duper OP, but there's always at least one. And then it means if someone just so happens to luck out and get that, they pretty much guarantee like top 3. And that just feels weird. It feels wrong. But now there's like so much strategy inbuilt into the augment system. Do you combine them now? Do you wait? Is it worth it? It just makes it so much more interesting and a lot less broken in terms of general gameplay balance.
Yeah, no, agree completely, man. Like I said, is it perfect? No. Is it a huge step forward? Yes. And I mean, that's why Kieran wanted to have this chat today. I'm pretty excited to see what he's got to say. And yeah, I mean, I'm very, very interested to see what the next kind of steps are for go-to-market strategy and things like that, which we'll obviously discuss when Kieran is here.
All right, so let's jump into it. The first thing I've got for today is Gauntlet Testnet Patch 1.9.0 .t1. Interesting way to structure it. Basically, Bug Fighter Squad program is active. They removed Draft Deck and they did some other updates and things. Scatter was really good, by the way. You just clicked it and it instantly went to the other person's board and it was really clean outside of during the battle. But even then, I actually kind of like watching the speed up battle. But no, they did a really good job with that.
I disagree with the speed up thing, but that's just my opinion there.
Oh, it was kind of funny. I get sick of it real fast, but it was kind of funny the first few times I did it. The next one, we've got Treasury vesting update. Kieran had to unstake the Treasury ILV tokens so they could pull out 50,000 ILV, which would then allow, then they restaked it. The 50,000 ILV is to maintain certain commitments. They are paying some of their staff, as mentioned previously, in ILV or partly in ILV and stuff like that. So that'll last them quite a few months. They won't need to do that again for the long term. The next thing is Illuvium Gauntlet Last Rager Standing tournament is this Friday. That is happening in 8 hours from now. So if you want to participate in this tournament and try and win a heap of ILV, 8 hours from now, jump in. You can join the sit and go, play for 4 hours to try and get as many wins as you can. Honestly, I'm not that excited for it. I am going to compete, even though it'll kill me because it'll be 4 a.m. I'm not that excited just because it's not testnet, and I want the testnet features. It's kind of hard to go back now. You're bugging out a bit.
I'd be way more interested.
Back.
Yeah. I was thinking, it's funny, before you said that in my mind, I was like, yeah, it's cool. I'm glad we're starting to do this. But if it was testnet, I'd be way, way more excited.
It's just hard to go back now. It's like you've tasted like something really great, and now you want to eat like it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Okay. The next thing is governance elections. Nominations are now open. Let's have a look at the IMC nominees quickly. IMC voting period starts on May 10 to May 13. Newly elected appoints committees, and community council nominations are 19 to 28. And then their voting period is 28 to June 1. And then I leave I leave council on June 5. So yeah, very exciting stuff. Let's see who has put their name in. Jaggernight coming in hot right at the top there. Patat right after him. Then Dr. Spoon, good to see. Nasty, Big Man JB, didn't notice he would be in there. Tholky, great to see that. I know Tholky's a mod, but would that count as the one team member? I don't think it does because Blicker's never had that problem. Paz putting his hat in the ring as well. A lot of really great candidates here. Personally, I'm looking forward to Josh.eth and yourself if you actually end up nominating yourself.
We'll see.
A lot of great candidates so far. A lot of great candidates. No Philo yet. I would have loved to see Philo nominate as well, actually.
Let us know in chat if you would actually want me to do that. Like, I'm not going to do it unless I can see there is actual interest, because I know I can add value, but yeah, we'll just see.
Sure. Okay. The next thing is Gauntlet Testnet Patch 1.9.0.t2. Sorry, this was the one that fixed all that stuff and disabled the draft deck. I forgot that we got 2 testnet patches within the span of like 5 days. So that's my bad. The next thing we've got is, unfortunately, there's no ETA on a custom team builder for the Leviathan Gauntlet. It's something they need to integrate in a lot of different ways, and there are many moving parts when the MMO is taken into account. So although it is on their mind, it doesn't have an ETA as of yet, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's super important.
Jeremy says, in the testnet build, skins are currently working in the game. So the skins you made in the overworld will work in the arena. I need to buy a few more Scorioxes and get a Scoriox suit. I'm looking forward to that. The next one is from Roger. He's got a new leak. I love those eyes, man. They kill me. Look at this guy. He's absolutely perfect. Reason enough to get back into Beyond. Roger also showed off a different image of Kama. All past images have had a different color scheme. He's showing off that it mimics the affinities and it will actually visually change color. I think this will be such a fun alluvial to have in the game. The only problem with Kama is he's a little bit too much of a staple. You almost need him to be weak as hell, because the ability to just gain an extra synergy of some kind is a little bit too impactful in the current structure of the game. And so it'll be really interesting to see how they set up Kama and his abilities. If anyone has any ideas on that, let me know. The next one is there's a bunch of 403 errors for some people. Stuart said that a configuration update was needed to be less aggressive now that the bots are all but gone. So it's good. We don't really have a bot problem in the game anymore, which is really great to hear. The other one is a discussion from Toriel where he says having to scroll past people who've never played a game to find out how many raffle tickets he has really sucks. The point is, all the people that haven't played a game, just like with the Ascendant days, are still on the leaderboard with 0 games played. That shits me to death as well. Remove them off the leaderboard. Maybe that's something I will have to ask Kieran when he comes on. But I could not agree more. Anubis also has some concerns about the current structure of the leaderboard and reward system for the arena. And really what it's about is that if someone grinded hard in the first week of the arena leaderboard because they kind of stopped playing and stuff like that, it's basically impossible to catch them, even with the decay systems in the game. Taryn's going to try something to jump off for a sec. But yeah, so Anubis is really right. But what he proposes here is something I did not expect. He actually suggests, I don't know where it is, introduce a separate leaderboard system. So you keep the current one so people can try and grind for the long-term glory of Illuvium Arena, but kind of like in Illuvium Beyond. I don't know what he says here, but like a dynamic weekly leaderboard that you can compete on week to week to try and get the Illuvium rewards. And maybe in the main leaderboard, you get rewards as well. I don't know. But in the weekly one is focused on the rewards gain. I don't know. It might reward grinding a little bit too much, but it would mean that you only need to grind in a specific week rather than grinding over the entire period of a month. But that's actually why I really like the new tournament structure for Rich and Kieran's official Illuvium tournament, where you're just grinding for 4 hours. If you're a good player, then you're going to make it into the tournament because you're beating everyone out in those 4 hours. I think that is a really cool format. I'd like to see them improve finals. I know a lot of people have concerns on that. But for the actual qualifying format, I think it is absolutely sick. Soda says he won't vote, but he is fine with TSG on the council. Love to hear it. Okay, now we've got some content from the community. The first one is Dennis says he fused this bad boy. Fuse this bad boy, ready for MMO. Might even throw him in Leviathan Gauntlet. Dark Hollow Malura with some really good stats. Actually, I think he's missing resistance, which is kind of rough. He's also missing attack speed, I believe. Overall, very competent. Really love to see this Malura. Absolutely love it, Dennis. From Drak, we've also got some interesting developments in the Illuvium land market, where after the economy reform, we saw all land start to go back up again. Recently, T1, T2, T3 land had a little pullback, but T4 land has kept going up. As I keep saying, T4 is the best way to gain revenue from the fuel sales and things like that. And so I'm not shocked that it's doing decently well compared to the others, at least. The other thing is Big Man JB absolutely loved the new testnet patch. He got 4 Berserker, and these are the sorts of stories I'm loving seeing. 4 Berserker, 3 Tsunami, 3 Mud, 8 Water somehow, 2 Mystic, and 2 Toxic. Wait, this image will be better. So, Bulwark Flail, he's got 2 Berserker chips with the Riplance and Exalted Monkia and Exalted Apon giving him 2 Mud. And then he's got, I guess, how to get the Tsunami from the Axodon. Absolutely insane team. Now, I'm assuming he was up against bots. You probably wouldn't be able to get that against non-bots. Not the way he has at least. But you absolutely love to see it. See, this is the sort of stuff I'm excited for. Like, we haven't seen anyone play water in forever. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And like you said, maybe this isn't as plausible in a match with real people, but the fact that this is a potential outcome makes the game way better. Like, I remember way back that when we first started doing not Gauntlet, Ascendant, and in tournaments everyone was running the exact same team, and now you have like, we're just seeing more variety as we continue developing, and that's going to be super important.
Yeah, like you say, you can't get this in a normal game against players, but a big fundamental part of this team is the 2 Berserker chips, which could easily happen in a game against real players. You also got a fighter chip that he's put on the Caradulox there. That stuff is not going to be uncommon against players. Once you get those 2 Berserker chips, you're going for Riplance right away. And then obviously you're probably going to want Caradulo and then definitely a Greater Monkia. But it's just a no-brainer there. And I freaking love it. Okay, the next post we've got from Kieran, and we are going to ask him about this today. He says, we're actually much closer to Arena Mobile than I realized. Zero has continually had 5K plus players since launch, and I suspect it's due to ease of access. Arena Mobile will be much higher. And some very interesting news about the MMO. The next 6 to 8 weeks are gonna be epic. I've talked to him internally about the MMO thing a little bit. I'm going to ask him all about that today. I think he's going to give us a lot of details about exactly what is happening with the MMO. I can't wait.
Cool. The arena stuff, I've been harping on this, but localization. Like, and I know we're going to speak about that when he comes on a little bit later as well. But I think arena without localization, this is my opinion, wouldn't be setting us up for success. So I think like on mobile, it makes sense. But without localization, I think we're just shooting ourselves in the foot, which has been done many a times already. And it's not something that I want to see happen again. And we can see, we can see it all here. Like, there's no way that I'm going to be skipping on the localization aspect of mobile. And the 6 to 8 weeks, let's add a couple of weeks on there as well as leeway. I'm not going to hold him to the exact 6 to 8 weeks. And if it does pull through, I'll be pleasantly surprised.
I love it. Okay, the next one is a mobile UI. Yeah, I mean, it looks good. I have no comments on it. It looks like actually like a really solid UI. Like, I'm genuinely pretty impressed with this one. The little alluvial icon at the top right, very good. Like, these are the little things that sometimes people miss when they haven't been like working in this field for several years. But the reason you want to put because the team planner is in the bottom right hand corner on PC, but you can't do that on mobile because you want the thumbs to really access the 2 core parts of the game, buy EXP and refresh. The accidental click on something that isn't the refresh button is awful. It feels so bad. And so you make sure there's nothing else in that bottom right hand corner, and you have a really solid and effective UI for you to play the game on mobile. I don't know if anyone else really thinks about that sort of stuff, but that is the first thing I noticed. They moved that to the top left. I'm like, yes, that is exactly where it has to go. You can also see all the text and stuff is really big. There are a lot of different phone screen sizes in the world. This is pretty critical. So just going to put that out there. Okay, we're going to show off the highlight reel. I hadn't actually watched that properly in a while. That is a quality video. Kieran is here right on time. Llama created an absolute banger of a video. I want to just quickly scroll back. Look at this. I forgot about this part. They've got different images for them. So I'm looking forward to seeing what that's about. But we'll get Kieran on the stream right now. How's it going today, man?
Hey guys, how you doing?
Good. We're looking forward to it. Yeah, how are you feeling? How's everything behind the scenes? Like, are you getting revved up? It sounds like it from all your tweets and things we've been seeing.
Yeah, I am. I can sort of see not really the finish, I guess the start line for Arena, right? Like we've always been in this position, it feels like, where we aren't quite ready to really go out and make a big song and dance about Arena. And we had Ascended, the 1v1 mode, which just didn't hit, and we didn't have great player retention, but we had so many things that were good that it was kind of like, oh, that's such a shame. Then when we switched to the 8-player multiplayer version, we were like, okay, this is really good, except it's too bare bones. We've only had 3 months because it was such a late pivot. We've only had 3-4 months to put this together. The fact that we even had a working game at that point was pretty crazy, given how little people were working on it and for how long. And so that was another moment where we were like, okay, we marketed it for a little bit. It was like a couple of months there, and Taran would know this. We're like, fuck, all right, we got to hold off. There's no point spending money on a game that isn't retaining players. Now, after playing what's available in testnet, it's like we're so close that I can smell it, where we really have a game that not just we are feeling it internally, externally, you can see players are like, yeah, this is starting to get pretty sweet. So it's good.
No, that's it. I think we're going to touch on a lot of those things later on in terms of what you can share with player numbers, the go-to-market strategy and everything like that. So we're definitely going to attack them, and I'm keen to dive in deep there. But from your perspective, you're clearly hyped as shit compared to, I won't say compared, just relaying that to the community. So what is it that you're seeing? Is there one particular feature that you're seeing that's just blowing you away? You're like, yo, no one's even talking about this yet. You can't wait to show it off. What's the one thing that you're seeing that you're like, yo, these guys have no clue this is coming?
So we always talk about, obviously we're building an auto battler. There's 3 main auto battlers in the world, really. And we always talk about, like, what's our unique identifier? The Ranger is one compared to TFT, but then if you look at Dota Underlords, they've got a Ranger in there. So it's the thing that I think is going to make a big difference that I don't think many people are really talking about, or I don't think people understand, is the reworking of the weapon system. So I was a big talker, I guess you would say. I don't want to say I was negative, because I really wasn't. But when the weapons and suit feature came out and they were introduced, when the Ranger came in, I was like, this is way too complex. And not even just complex, way too frustrating, right? Like, there wasn't a way for you to say, like, this is what I'm going in on, because you only have that single slot for the weapon. It's too hard to get to, like, 4 of whatever composite synergy you want. And so there isn't that freedom, and there's, like, that personalization that you can get. With the weapon rework, not only can you go deep into the existing strategies that you do in the game, but actually be able to nail them where, like, to a certain extent, almost each game, you can get to one of those really, really powerful comps. You can do it now in a different way. You can build on, so you start your strategy and you choose one of these weapons, right? And there's 15 plus weapons that you can use. Then you start bolting on the amplifiers. So you can do one of two things, right? You can assist your team in doing so, and in terms of like, you can buff your entire team, make yourself more, give them more health or give them more damage overall, or you can go into an individual. Sorry, I'm just turning this off. Or you can go into more of a individual ranger buff and just make your ranger ridiculous, right? Which is something that you sort of see in games. Like if someone hits, call it a 5 cost suit, and they get 3, and you've probably never seen this because you guys don't really get late game, but when you get up to that skill level, you'll sometimes see if someone hits like a 5 cost and they get stage 3 of that, the ranger starts putting down like 10,000 damage and it's like the thing that is doing the most damage, or maybe it's tanking the most amount of damage, and you sort of play around your ranger. That's where we're going with this this new suit system and weapon system, and it's gonna make it really, really, really cool. And I think it's gonna make it a lot more strategic. So that's on the arena side, I would say.
Yeah.
Can I ask? Sorry, Scoriox, where is that currently? Obviously, there's so much coming up, and obviously you want to make a push for marketing. Where is it with that? That's the thing that excites you the most. Where are we with that? Can we expect that in one of the more upcoming patches, or is it still time away? Where is that currently?
So we're targeting for June, but that's aggressive, right? Like that's sort of a Kieran target, if you would call it that. What I think is reality is probably early July. Like, and that's a realistic. Like, you've seen how fast we're shipping new features. This is already being worked on, and yeah, I think it's pretty realistic to say that early July, and that will be one of the last features that we have in before we start the big marketing push.
Yeah, I'm personally really looking forward to it. I barely ever touch the suits. I just get the 0 cost suit at the start and I don't touch them. It's just like there's one additional point of information that my brain cannot process at any given point in time. The weapons, I can handle them. That extra suit in the shop, it's invisible to my brain. I cannot see it for the life of me.
It's also all the way to the right, so
Yeah.
Your brain sort of is trained, like, focus on alluvials. That's a secondary. So
I think the big thing is you divide the information, because alluvials and weapons are based on synergy, and so they're all color coded, and so you can see them very, very quickly. But the suit is invisible because they all look identical. You don't actually know which one it is. There's no information telling you, and then my brain can't connect. So the next one is a really fun question. Can you drop one never before revealed detail, mechanic, or future plan, something the community might not know yet?
Well, this is interesting because we just released the roadmap this morning. So I don't know. I don't know when you did these questions, but maybe we wouldn't be sticking to our word, specifically me, if there was something secret lying beneath the surface. In that roadmap, we pretty much say these are all the features. If something's not listed there, it's because it's smaller and probably not something that makes sense on like a high level roadmap like that. But the idea here is that moving forward, and not just moving forward from today, is in like the last 3 or 4 months, we have been adamant that, hey, we don't want to fuck this up, right? Like we're building something that's massive. It has huge scope. And one of the biggest things that we did originally was build overworld nowhere near as transparently as what we're planning on doing now. And the reason is, not only do we want to say what we're building, we want to give it to the players at every step of the way and say, hey, if this is terrible, we need to know now, because we can pivot. We have time then to change it. Too many times we would go sort of like 4, 5, 6 months down the line of like, hey, this is what we're going to build. And we finally give it to people and they're like, oh, all right, it's cool for the first 2 days. Then we're like, this sucks. Like, where's the replayability here? It's just not there. We're not doing that anymore. We don't have the luck. This is what I tell people internally. We don't have the luxury of doing that. Hence us setting up the overworld group of testers that once we officially start that, they will be getting new feature after new feature after new feature, similarly to how we were doing things with Arena.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And I think like if it works out and it's like highly successful and Illuvium takes off and it's like the biggest thing since sliced bread, right? Like obviously it's a bit pie in the sky, but my point is, if that happens, I think like when they're writing stories about Illuvium's history and things like that, them giving it to the community will be a really big component of that story. And I think then more game studios will actually start doing that as they're developing their new up and coming titles and stuff like that. So I think that's really interesting. And I don't know if you agree with me there, but if it works out, and the community can also feel really proud of themselves for contributing so much to the brand new Illuvium game.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. There's we've always wanted to be that way, and I think I can confidently say that we build more transparently than most people in this space and in mainstream. But I think the difference is we're more experienced now, and so we know how to do that. Which seems dumb, right? Like at sort of like a higher level, you look at that and you're like, we'll just show everyone everything. But it's more complicated than that, right? Like you need to have systems in place where we're fighting against what's the quality like? Like, do you want to put people under NDAs where they can't share anything, which has its own issues? Or, so with that in mind, people know, hey, they're going to talk about this. They're potentially going to showcase things. There's guys like you who want to get that content out. And if it's good, we want to get that content out, right? And so then you're playing with the developers who are sitting there like, oh, it's not ready yet, not ready yet, not ready yet. And if you don't draw that line in the sand, that's how you get so far down the line. And you're like, fuck, like the fact that no one has played combat, when I showed you guys on the council, what, like 9 months ago, something like that. We had that prototype built over a year ago. That should have been the moment where we just go, it's rough. We've got our testers. We know that some people are going to share and whatever, but we put disclaimers all over it, give it to the people. And they might say, hey, we like 80% of this, but this feature of combat, it's a little janky. I don't like it how he moves like that. Or there needs to be another ability there where it's not just 2 slashing motions. There's an extra one, like whatever it is. We need to work out, like, how do we get this in the hands of the community the fastest way possible while also making sense internally? And that's the tricky part that I think we've gotten into a sweet spot, as you can see from Arena.
Yeah, it's really difficult because the prototyping phase for games is so important, but those prototypes, they're not necessarily for public consumption. It doesn't really work as a prototype in a consumer's hand. Most people just can't visualize what they're supposed to be testing for in such a rough state, but that's really the state where you gotta kind of get it right. So there's that place in the middle, and it's really hard to nail that down. But I'm really looking forward to all these future tests, especially with the internal community tests and things like that. Just quickly, Taran's internet looks like it's been destroyed or whatever, maybe a meteor or something. So he won't be able to continue with us, unfortunately. All right.
No
So
worries.
the next thing is, what's one key decision? You've probably just covered that, but what's one key decision you've made this year that you think will define Illuvium's legacy?
I would say reducing the team size. You know, that was a very hard thing for us to go through. Me personally, I had to speak to a lot of those guys that had been with us for 3 or 4 years, and it was very tough conversations to have with people. And it's interesting now. We're a couple of months on from that, and I spoke to quite a few people about this in our team, like nearly 10 people I spoke to. And I said, like, how do you feel now? In the beginning, you were very freaked out about this. You're saying, like, okay, like, we've already got a large workload. What's it going to be like now? And it's pretty crazy. It almost all the responses back to that question were things are working better. They're more smooth. We're getting less sort of diffusion of responsibility where someone's sitting there saying, you know, well, I thought Jimmy did that. And then Jimmy's like, well, no, Ricky did that. And it's like, fuck, no one's doing it. Like, we need to get this done. Whereas if it's just Ricky, he's like, whoa, there's no one else. I'll just do it, you know? And so it cuts down the amount of communication. And when you're talking about a remote studio, that matters a lot. And so why I think that will be sort of a defining moment in our history is because it's given us a perspective on how we proceed regardless of how things go, right? Like, if things go poorly, we know what we need to do in order to keep the studio alive and what moves to make next. But more importantly, we know how to grow again, right? Like, not go crazy where, yes, we got a whole bunch of stuff done. We built so much stuff, but we weren't able to really step back and say, is this the right things that we're building? Because it was just so frantic. There were so many people. So we'll be a lot more careful with how we grow each department. And that starts that this isn't just, you know, the high admins who are saying, like, now we know how to grow. I'm talking like internally in department heads, they're going to think a lot more closely about how they grow their department. And it's not just sheer numbers in order to get more work done necessarily.
Yeah, people often forget that you're a first-time game studio, but there's a lot more that comes with that than designing a game itself or the project management and things like that. And I know you've built businesses and things before, so you probably understand a lot of that. But it's probably very different working remotely, working on blockchain, developing a game. There's just so much to learn. But the beauty is that once you learn it, once you kind of get your foot in the door, so to speak, it's very exciting after that. And I'm looking forward to this next phase of Illuvium. I really am.
Yeah, it should be good.
All right, so then let's get on to the arena then. So firstly, the Forge just dropped. Oh, shit. We already asked that. All right. Since Arena Rewards launched, have you seen meaningful spikes in daily active players or retention? And are there any metrics on that you can actually share with us?
Yeah, so we've 4x the player base, which is not too bad. It's still nowhere near our peak, right? Like, we had 70,000 people playing at its peak, but we're definitely seeing an uptick, and that's growing week on week on week, which is really, really good. That means basically that the players that are coming in, they're going and telling more people, because we're doing basically no marketing outside of these rewards. So maybe that's a word of mouth thing as well. Hey, I'm playing this game. I just got paid out my rewards. It's also fun. Come and play. There's been absolutely nothing outside of that we've been doing. We haven't worked with any content creators. We haven't done anything in Web 2. We haven't been advertising. It's just, you know, raw word of mouth. And obviously these rewards help. Of course they do in this space. Mm-hmm. But Yeah, it's a weird thing because we don't want to bring players in right now. If that makes it, like, I know how stupid that sounds, but we are so close to this finished version, right? Like if I could say no bugs, even like the carousel, which is pretty bugged at the moment, no bugs and all of those features on testnet, at that point with that out on mainnet, yeah, I think we would be really happy to get players in, but we still need to see, right? Like there's only a small amount of people compared to how many people are playing on mainnet that have tried that. We might go back and go, okay, wow, now that we've got a ton of people playing this, XYZ is wrong with it. Go back to the drawing board. In that case, again, we wouldn't want people to come in because retention wouldn't be there. And that's our most critical metric right now, is retaining players. So yeah, it's kind of a weird thing when people are like, are you going to start marketing? It's like, no, we're not yet, but we're pretty close.
Yeah, I think the battle pass is a big turning point for that. In terms of retention specifically, I feel like the battle pass is quite impactful. Even in the crypto gaming space, they've really taken it on board. Let's put it that way. So here's the big question I want to ask you today. You recently said we're actually much closer to Arena Mobile than I realized. What changed? Okay, what's happening? And also, with nearly half the auto battler audience coming from non-English regions, will localization be a part of the initial mobile rollout or even before that?
Yeah, so it was a funny thing. I was speaking to Jeremy on Monday, and as we get closer to Arena being finished and we see the numbers going up like they are, you start to get excited, and then you're like, double down on this, like this thing that we've been talking about for 2-3 years, which it's an unknown, right? Like it's one of those things where in this space right now, there are hundreds of thousands of active players in Web3 gaming that can't play Illuvium. They cannot, as in they do not have a computer that can function and play Illuvium, right? Now, we don't give them an option on mobile, and maybe that's 1 million plus players. I don't know. Like it very well could be. And that's always been this sort of like looming over my head thing where I'm like, fuck, like it's not the same comparison as a typical mainstream game where there's so many active players, there's so much addressable market that you can easily say, well, if the game isn't reaching 100,000 players on desktop, then it probably doesn't deserve us to build out mobile, right? Like or somewhere around there. You can at least say there's enough addressable. In our case, it might be that there's 1 million people in total playing on mobile, and maybe there's 50,000 playing on desktop, right? Or 50,000 that actually have the specs good enough to play Illuvium, right? If we're playing in that field, which obviously we don't know for certain, but if we are, then it's insane for us to sit here and be like, okay, well, we don't have enough players on Arena. It's because the game's bad. It could just be the platform, right? Like it doesn't have enough accessibility. That's always been looming over my head. And so I've been like so adamant that we need to get this out, but it's always just been this situation of like, well, we can't justify it because there's not enough players. And so I asked Jeremy on Monday, and I was like, man, this is going to come up. If we turn around after July and this tournament goes really well and retention's high, we're gonna be sitting here saying like, we need to go to mobile. Like, how long is that realistically going to take? And he was like, well, the art is basically done, dude. Like, and I was like, as in all the characters now are pretty much done in terms of the mobile optimization. And he was like, yeah. And Ergen has already started the process of the mobile port. And so I'm not going to say what he said.
No, tell us.
No, he was like, dude, it will be weeks. And I was like, what? Like, are you sure it's that? And he's like, no, I'm not even joking. Because I'm sitting here saying, like, if we can get it at the end of the year, that'd be amazing. Like November, December. And he was like, no, dude, like, if we want to do this, we can do it fast. So I was like, okay, and read through whatever you want there, but we're already building the UI. The characters are already ready. The back end is done. It's like not crazy. It's not a crazy amount of time.
So I'll tell you my perspective. The past 3 or 4 months, I've been slowly trying to learn Unreal Engine. Now, I haven't done a whole lot in it, but I suggest you actually go to Unreal and spend 8 hours messing around with it. What I'm saying here is it's really fascinating. You go to the Unreal front page, it's like it wants you to make your first project. You can click the mobile button and it will build you something you can export to mobile straight away. Obviously, it's not that simple, but short of having assets that are optimized for it and updated UI, technically you could kind of move your project across. Obviously, there's a lot more work you need to do, but my point is that Unreal itself, Unity not so much, Unreal itself is built really well for building on both mobile and PC. And so I've always believed that like you might need to get some new hires and things like that, but I've always felt like I don't think mobile's that far away, and it'd be exciting to see you guys start to try and do it and see what happens. Maybe it'll be faster than expect. Maybe it'll take way longer. I don't know. But I've always felt like mobile was really within reach. And I'm glad to hear that you guys are having that conversation, starting the process a little bit. It's that one of those things that you just have to do over time. But yeah.
So the biggest uplift, like our art is immense, right? Like we have easily by far the most high detailed, best looking characters in any game in Web3. And it's not even close, right? And I don't think anyone's sitting here being like, they don't have the best looking game, right? Like I genuinely never hear that. But it comes at a cost. And so the biggest hurdle for us to get through there was to get through 220 characters, right? Like that's tough to do. And so when Jeremy was like, no, they've been smashing them out, which I knew they were, but like we downsized the team. And so there's only 2 people doing it. And so I just assumed, okay, you're at like 50% a couple of months ago. It must be at like 60%. We're going to have to smash that out. So it was the artwork. Now that that's done, it's like you say, right? Like we actually, and this is another frustrating thing, we had a version 2 years ago where one of the devs in their spare time was like, fuck it, I'm just going to build it for mobile, even using using the assets that we currently had at that time, which, it'll melt your mobile, basically, like say goodbye to it. But it worked. Now, we should have said at that time, hey, anyone who has a really, really good mobile phone, you can test this, right? Now, it would have been clanky and whatever, and had all of its issues and unoptimized, all of that kind of stuff. But at least it would have shown like, hey, this is a, potential. So anyway, that's why we're much, much closer, right? Like all of that hard lifting stuff is done. We just need to find the time for one of those devs to build it. And yeah, as you say, Unreal Engine, it makes it as easy as possible to be able to port over. So yeah, I'm not joking when I say, where you can take someone's word for it, not mine. When Jeremy says it, that guy doesn't fuck around.
Yeah, it's one of those things where until you start doing it, you won't actually know how long it takes, which is how we end up with January 2021 release date, right? Like, all right. So let's move on. So currently the arena leaderboards reward grind over skill. Not my words. Many of the community say this sort of stuff. Is there a plan to introduce systems like soft resets or other skill-based rankings to change up kind of the way the arena leaderboards work?
Yeah, definitely. I think soft resets make a ton of sense. We don't want to continually, I love it because I'm like, yes, everyone's even again. And, I can, this time it's going to be different. And it really never is, right? I sit around 1,200 to 1,300, and that's as far as that goes. And that's not frustrating for me. That's fine. It's actually an advantage for someone like me who's a intermediate player. But one of the good, like the good guys out there that have to constantly go all the way back and grind back without saving some of their ELO is frustrating. So I definitely think we need soft resets. But in terms of like the grind versus skill, it's a tricky time at Illuvium right now because we're trying to build the player base up. The number one thing for us is to retain users and get queue times down. Queue times have gone down like by 3 or 4x over the last 2 weeks. So that is starting to happen. And now that we're seeing that stability there, we can start to think about, okay, now how do we reward the top players? And because we need to build that competitive scene. And I speak to a couple of the guys quite regularly who are in the top, and we're starting to plan out like how are we going to change this a little bit. And yeah, so without a doubt, it's planned.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and I think Leviathan's going to be interesting as well. So on that note, you said it would take approximately 4 weeks before, or 4 to 6 weeks, I think, before making Leviathan live. We would be at about the 4-week mark now-ish. When can we expect that?
We had a chat about it because you're right, this was the time where we're either going to switch over or whatever. It's getting very close. The biggest thing was queue times. If we now add another mode and we incentivize another mode, it's going to split the player base. We're probably just happy with the player base queue times of Gauntlet in terms of just the ranked mode. If we were to then introduce it, it would take us back, or I assume it would take us back to a level where we're unhappy with ranked. And we don't want that, right? We want to have that surplus where if 500, call it 1,000 players peeled off to Leviathan, we would still be okay in ranks, because that's likely going to be the mode that onboards people. Then after 6 to 8 weeks, they start seeing this other stuff, and they're like, oh, I can own the alluvials. Then they come across. There's no point screwing one of the modes or the onboarding mode. It's just going to ultimately hurt the Leviathan mode as well.
Yeah, I 100% agree. My thoughts are we're not quite at enough players to be able to introduce Leviathan, even though I really want to see Leviathan come in. I don't necessarily know how you increase the player base from where it is now unless you up the rewards for the current leaderboard structure and things like that. Do you have any plans for increasing the current leaderboard, the current player base for Ranked Gauntlet?
Look, that's certainly going to help, but I think the thing that's going to help more than that we can't really compete with is a token price going up. When we paid out rewards in the first week, we paid them out and the ILB price was $10. Now this week they got paid out at, or they're set to be paid out at nearly $16. That's a huge increase where, we can go and double the amount of rewards that we give out, but what's better is to double the token price. Doesn't cost us anything. Then all of a sudden, $10,000 of rewards goes up to $16,000 and more and more and more and so on. So it's certainly always something that we think about, like, do we need to add more? Do we not? But that's the first protocol for us, is to basically, keep the positive momentum going, and as a last resort, start adding more tokens, because again, we want to keep them as much as possible. It allows us to do bigger tournaments and all of that kind of stuff.
I'm looking forward to the tournament tonight or tomorrow morning for us. Should be interesting.
3 a.m., right? 6 hours. Thank you, Rich.
I think it might be 4 a.m.
Well, I think I'm needed at 3 a.m. I don't know. He can't give me a solid time, which is kind of the problem.
On the note of tournaments, though, you've always aimed to make the Illuvium Arena a true esport. How close are we to that? I know you can now scout at other players' boards, and what is needed to make that vision real?
So spectator mode was a big thing like that, and it makes it much better in terms of just as a player, but for actually hosting tournaments, as you would know, spectator mode is going to take it to the next level, right? Like it's really, really hard to add like awesome commentary when you don't have that. Like we've got to do all of these little hacky things which piss the players off. It pisses the host off. Like it's just not ideal. So that would be the biggest thing. And then just adding all of the features, right? Like it's still very much an alpha-ish game. Getting all of these features in, getting it up to like a sort of open beta place, that would be the starting point for us to say like, okay, we actually think that this can be an esports game now, and go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. It is. People don't understand just how difficult and stressful it actually is, especially without a spectator mode. And like the match integrity too is actually really tricky because before we had even scouting, you had to like make sure everyone was streaming their screens to you and they weren't watching each other's screens and all that sort of logistical crap. And just like having this just means you can just have people play the game and focus on playing the game, and you can focus on hosting the event and things like that. It's just so much better. So the last one I have on the arena is actually someone pointed out to me. Winnie sent me a message. He pointed out to me that in the Q1 2025 milestones, at the top left there, you have reduced Leviathan power. And then in Q2 2025, you also have reduced Leviathan power. Is there another thing coming up to reduce it?
Well, actually, I don't think so. I think that might be a typo. I'm hoping.
Well, I'm happy to leave it at that.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be another. I mean, we had to reduce the Leviathan power. We talked about that. Mm-hmm. That's been going on since Q1, so I would assume that's typo. But Jeremy doesn't really make mistakes like that, so I don't know. That's an interesting one. Not that
I mean, it could mean a wide range of things, like reducing it by 5% across the board, eliminating levels, changing the way levels work. So it's very abstract.
Yeah, we're not doing that, so I don't think so, but we'll see.
Okay, fair enough. All right, so let's move on to the MMO. So you mentioned in past town halls and things like that Andre is shifting to help with the MMO-Lite. What progress has actually been made on the MMO-Lite since then?
So Andre actually helped Daniel build the multiplayer service for Arena. That's the first thing that they need to build. Actually, I'm not sure if I said this, or if we've made this public, but we're planning on getting the first thing that we want to showcase is the boss battle, and we want that to be the quickest thing that we build in terms of the MMO. It's not the vertical slice. It's going to be inside the vertical slice. And we haven't yet decided, are we going to make this playable? Because we're talking like we want to showcase this very, very quickly. So we haven't decided, do we make that playable, or do we wait until it's a little bit more polished? Or do we just showcase what it is on like a live stream with, Rich or one of the content creators or whatever? That's the first thing that we want to do. In order to do that, we need multiplayer servers for Overworld, and we need combat to be complete. And so they're the first two things that Andre has already started working on with Chava.
How's the progress been? Have you seen anything yourself or not yet?
I have, and it's good. All I'll say is there's so much to be excited about with this MMO. Like, just that, it's such a frustrating, and I've said this before, but it's such a frustrating thing, right? Like the overworld in the current state that it is, and the cool thing about combat is they already had that in, as I said, like almost 18 months ago now, they built combat. Multiplayer was a thing, playing with your alluvials. Like I've seen all of that, right? And so it obviously isn't as polished in terms of the game design, like what systems, what abilities you use. It was very much just hack and slash. But to go from what we had to what Andre had basically a month after we launched, where you could see your friends in there. You did have alluvials roaming around, and he had it set to like a cracked out mode where you could put 7 alluvials down. That was wild, right? And you could have combat, right? Like you weren't going into this auto battler. It was like, whoa, like this is amazing. This is so fucking cool. And when you have all of those features in a world that looks so beautiful, where the graphics are unbelievable, I think that is the advantage that we have, right? Like I still haven't seen a game in Web3 that looks like proper AAA. You hear a lot like, yeah, we've got all the funding and whatever. And you know why? Because it takes an unbelievably big and skilled team to pull it off at the level that we're talking, with the scale that we have and the regions and the amount of characters, the amount of systems, the amount of weapons, the amount of armor. It's stupid. It's fucking a massive bulk amount of work. And what I would assume a lot of these other games are doing is saying like, whoa, that's too much. Now, we probably went too far. Totally accept that. We went too far. We should have been working on like, okay, let's make the games really fun. But if you just say, okay, we screwed that up, moving forward, who has got the biggest advantage? Is it, and this is why having these guys from Blizzard and Eve come in, they're like, whoa, like you guys have got some shit here. Like we can, don't worry about the game design. We can implement, they do that every single day, right? Like questing and the weapon systems and all that. Like they're sitting out there going, we can build this so quickly and design it. And you've already shown, if you can implement the hard stuff really well, like things like the characters and the art and all of this stuff, that's front loaded, that's done. Who's in the best position to go out there and implement all of these features? Usually you implement all these features and you've got something like a Power World, which looks fucking terrible. Like not terrible, but it's like, it's not, Monster Hunter, right? Like it's not even close to Monster Hunter in terms of the graphics. Now, if you can get them both out there, right, then you have an amazing game. But just the art by itself and no features does fuck all. Initially, the hype's there. Everyone's like, whoa, this is going to be the craziest thing I've ever seen. Love it, like you, right? Then you get in there and after a week or two, you're like, I want to love it, but what else, that's just not there. The flip side of that is you have a really good game feature-wise where you're shooting things and all of that kind of stuff with Power World, but their retention wasn't there because it just didn't feel like you loved the characters, right? Like you fell in love with the world, and that comes from the art. And if you can... Then if those guys then turn around and say, okay, we need to upscale and get to Monster Hunter level of art, they're looking at years and years, regardless of how big their team is. Like assuming they go and spend 500-person team to go and do it, the point that I'm making here is we have the art side of it. That's done. All of the systems of our art, our pipelines and everything to get things done quickly, it's all done. So we just need to implement the features now, and it's going to be like everything that people wanted. And that's why I'm so excited about this, because these guys have convinced me. They're like, dude, like you're not talking 10 years away here. Like we will design these systems. You guys can implement them so fast. You're sweet. There's so much front loaded here. So it's really, really cool, man. Like we're in a good position. We just got to prove it now.
I think you compare to Web3 gaming with that. I think that's quite good. But what you underselling here is actually the unique creature design is probably a world's first. So Pokemon nailed it back in 98, right? They got 150 characters and things like that. But since then, no one's actually done that in the 3D scale and the way Illuvium has. And I think that's really exciting. And I'm looking forward to more of them, and we'll get on that in a minute. But 3D fully AAA characters, no one's built 100 of them in any sort of creature collector. That doesn't actually exist in any video game that I've ever seen. Monster Hunter, you can kind of consider that, but it's a little bit of a different sort of style and genre, and they have like 20 or 30 creatures per game. There's no evolution and stuff. It's a bit of a different setup, but I think that's really valuable, and I think honestly, I personally think we haven't really doubled down on that enough and added new creatures, but I'm a little bit desperate for that myself, so I'm biased there. But yeah, I think they all have this amazing look and feel to them that is something that doesn't just come from strong visuals. It comes from good concepting and things as well, which no one really talks about enough.
And that's the reason no one does it is because it's so stupidly hard. It's arduous. It takes thousands and thousands and thousands of hours to get it done. It takes a really dedicated team. There's a lot of stuff where you're doing the same thing over and over and over again. And you know, the thing, and it's not just going and getting the work done. That initial 6 to 12 months of finding the people that can do that is one thing, right? Then getting them to go, okay, well, I did my first character in 2 weeks, my second character in 12 days, my third in 10 days. Now they're getting it down. And I'm not like, I'm just throwing shit out here. I'm not saying we're building characters in 2 days now, but their pipelines have been streamlined over years and years and years of doing it. And Roger has got it down. Like, it's crazy at how quickly they can build these things. And that is, to me, is one of our biggest USPs, is the fact that if we go and turn this MMO out, right, and it comes and all of the features, and everyone starts going, this is amazing. The first thing that people are going to say is like, when set 2, right? Like, they'll do it in a happy way, not like, we want to kill you because, you know, the game's empty. It'll be like, we fucking love this game, but where is set 2? And that's when we can turn around and say, we'll get you set 2 faster than any other gaming studio can. And we can, you know, add a few more resources to it because things will be going successfully. And that's when you really start printing, because people are loving the game. Like you say, it's that Pokemon-esque feeling where you love the characters, you know so much about them, you know why and how to use them, and we haven't even gone down the path of like backstories, cinematics on different characters. Like, there's been a few featured, but that is untapped in terms of what we can do. But the exciting thing there is people will buy them, right? Like we did with Pokemon. It was like the next Pokemon Genesis, you're like, I'm all in again. I don't even know what I'm doing. I've lost my mind, but I love these characters so much. That was at the very, very, very start of concepting, when Grant and I and Aaron sat down. It was like, we need to create that feeling again. And you see it with things like Beyond and whatever, like people, if they get into the ecosystem, and we made it very hard for them to get into the ecosystem. We didn't give them the best chance, but when they do, they're like, you know what? I fucking love these characters. So yeah, just getting the game up to a point where it's fun to play and it has thousands and thousands of hours of content for people to keep on playing over and over. Then you introduce new sets of alluvials and they just hit so much harder.
Yeah, and it's all exponential too, which a lot of people forget about. Like, I might not play the MMO-Lite a whole lot because I already own all the characters. Then you add 1 or 2, but do you think 2 years in the future, someone new to Illuvium has 3-4 years of new characters that they need to go and capture, and that's going to be really exciting for them. So it's kind of like a snowball effect. You've got to get that ball rolling, but the game has to be fun to play first. And then once it's fun, you can just churn out characters. I play TCG Pocket every day on my phone, and they release like a new set of cards every month. But what people don't actually like realize is these are all art from the old card sets that existed in physical form. And so people might like, they have this huge advantage where they can just like push out content faster than all of their competitors because they've got like a backlog of like 10,000 different art pieces that they can just whip out whenever they want. Names, attacks, everything. They've already got all the data.
So good.
Genius move from them, to be honest, when you really think about it. But all right. So the next thing is, what exactly does the vertical slice entail? Will it be playable by the community when it's completed? And do you think it'll be done in 2025?
100%. It'll be done in 2025. Yeah, not even close. It'll 100% it'll be done in 2025. The vertical slice is the first thing. Outside of the boss battle, we may give the boss battle to the overworld testers, which is that sort of tight-knit group first. If we don't do that, then the first thing that will go to testnet is the vertical slice. Now, how we're looking at doing this is we're basically, instead of us giving piece by like patch after patch after patch after patch, we think that in this space particularly, it's much, much better to just grab the attention in one foul swoop, right? Like, we could No Man's Sky it, but it's not Web 2, where they released an update and then, 100,000 people came in, then they released another patch and another 100,000, and they slowly did it over 2 years. We're talking about doing it all at once and saying, like, the game was bare bones. We're not going to not put it into the hands of people. As I said, all of these updates are going to go out, but they're not going to be public. They're going to be on the testnet. So if you've got access to that, you will be able to go and play. You will be able to go and post content. We're not trying to hide it like that. But the big push is when we're going to say, like, okay, the game is relaunching, like a proper relaunch. But yeah, in the meantime, there's going to be, if you're an avid Illuvium fan, chances are you've got access to testnet. You will have access the whole way through, and we'll be loving hearing your feedback. Both the game directors are like locked in. They love the community already. They're like, wow, they're so passionate. I'm like, passion's a funny word, but they're ready to hear from people. And so we want to get as many versions out, even of the same feature, an A/B test, all of that kind of stuff. We want to get them out.
Yeah, I think testing with the community is going to go a long way. I'm really looking forward to that phase. Like, you made it sound like it's going to come in Q3, but that's probably not going to happen, right?
I don't know.
Could you imagine? Okay, so we talked about alluvial lines for a minute, but what are the actual current plans to introduce new alluvial lines into the MMO-Lite? Do you think you'll release some into the vertical slice or much later?
No, they won't go into the vertical slice. There's been a bit of debate internally whether the relaunch comes with set 2 alluvials, or as in like whole new set, and you can never capture set 1 again. I think that's too aggressive. Like, I'm sort of on I'm in the position where I'm like, okay, like, if we get all of these people back in and then we're like, haha, no one, you can't, like, unless you're one of those insiders to Illuvium, you can't have caught the first set. I think it would be better for us to have a limited time window of when we relaunch, having those set 1 alluvials and saying, in this new game, you got all of these new features. You can only capture these alluvials for a set amount of time, call it, 3 months or whatever. And at that point, it's gone. So we use it as an amplifier to those people who are like, ooh, do I jump back in? Do I not? It's like, well, this is the last time that you can go and capture the Inferno Ramfire,
I would actually scale them off if you can. I think that might be what Drac is getting at, but I would actually say like over the next 3 months, they're going to start going extinct. So there's 10,000 Ramfires left. Once they're caught, it's over. Or at the 3-month point, from then there's 10,000 left. Once they're all caught, it's over, sort of a thing. Like you have
Yeah,
like a
that's cool.
giant countdown clock or something could be really interesting. When I was giving it more thought, I was thinking more like you swap 1 for 1, you do it really slowly, but I don't know how impactful that would be. Like if Kama comes in, you're like, okay, Kama's coming in, so Ramfire's going out forever. And then when the next Illuvio comes in, one other Illuvio goes out. Because you need a lot of them in there still to make the game extra compelling. And so that's the really hard part. So I don't know what you do there, but I like the idea of the amplification. I think that is really important. So I definitely agree with you there. So the next thing is, how connected will the MMO-Lite feel to Arena and Zero? Are we moving towards a shared Illuvium universe or more standalone titles?
Look, we've talked about sort of accessing Arena through the overworld and having, you know, like some of the battle boards where you can actually walk out and things like being able to challenge. You know, everyone's going to be walking around an instance in the MMO. If I see Scoriox, I can go up to you and I can right click and say battle, and you can say, you know, go away, or yeah, let's do it. Sure. Transports you. So in that in that way, they're connected. And of course, you know, where you capture these creatures is in the overworld. You then use those creatures in all of the other games. Fuel comes from Zero. So it's the same sort of connection that we were trying to go for originally, except ideally much more players.
Yeah, absolutely. So all right, so on the Zero note though, we should just one quick question for you there. We haven't really heard much about Zero and recent plans recently. What are the current and future plans for Illuvium Zero in 2025 at least?
So we still have a couple of people that have the potential to work on Zero. Being completely transparent here, and we've spoken about this for a long time, we're not working on Zero right now. We think the biggest frustration that comes from landholders is we aren't making enough revenue, right? Which I totally get. Without a doubt, 100% makes sense. Yes, there are some purists there that, and not some, like there's a massive active player base on Zero, and there always has been. And I think there are some people there, you know, that are like, we are gamers. Like, yeah, we bought a land plot, but like make our game more fun. Unfortunately, they're quite isolated, right? I think the majority of people are like, make us more money and we'll forget about, you know, the game needing to get better and better and better, like a traditional game. Having said that, yes, we are focused on making more revenue, which weirdly enough means not focusing on the game that they're talking about. It's working on the MMO and Arena. If those two games go well once we relaunch and we've got the revenue coming in, of course we're going to make Illuvium Zero better. It's not going to be the forgotten child that we don't try and do anything to. It's not that at all. And we never had that intention. There are so many features that were IIP'd to build the training gyms feature, right? Which is going to be a huge feature for Zero that'll make the gameplay a lot cooler. We're commissioned to go and do that, but we've just got to be smart about like when we start working on Zero again. So honestly, this year, I don't see new features coming to Zero. Hopefully, it's a lot more revenue coming to Zero.
Yeah, I'm hoping for training gyms. I think they'll be a really fun part of the overall ecosystem, especially as Leviathan starts to grow, as Arena completes itself. I think Leviathan is in desperate need for that Zero connection a little bit to like really join up the entire ecosystem. But besides that, I totally get where you're coming from. I think training gyms would be cool if they're easy to implement. I have no idea how hard that would be to build, to be honest. So I don't know where to start on that. Colin in the chat actually asked a really good question here. Something I've never actually asked you before, although it's been on my mind. have you thought about lending the assets to other studios to build another game, like how Parallel is going for their third-person shooter? But I'll extend on that. Have you thought about maybe renting is the wrong asset, selling some of the assets on the Unreal Engine store and things like that, and trying to bring in some revenue that way?
No. So look, we've always been open to third-party developers using the IP and using our assets to working, in a revenue split type relationship where we make money off every sale inside of that game. I think that makes sense. It's just we've spoken to a couple of studios in the past. There needs to be it needs to be a situation where they're a large enough studio where it's not like, okay, we'll go off and we'll build this, and then a week in they say like, oh, could you lend us one of your artists here because we don't have the capacity to do this, or can you lend us a dev that can do that, or we need to speak to your back end to do it. Like, that then takes us away, and all of a sudden we're working on Zero again, and we're like, why are we doing this? So absolutely, if we had a studio that was capable, that could do it without any sort of any uplift on our side, or very minimal uplift on our side, then yeah, we would definitely do it.
That's really interesting. Okay, yeah, fair enough. Okay, so now we get into marketing. So you've said marketing begins after the product is ready, and we've talked a little bit about that. So when does this blitz actually begin? Does it begin when this new patch goes to mainnet? Does it begin when we get weapons and suits in early July, or later than that?
Yeah, so we've waited this long. The plan is get to July when all the features should be in. Yeah, there'll be some polishing, and we'll be able to make things a little bit better, and things like UI will change and whatever. But for the most part, we're happy then to start bringing in players. So that's when the first big tournament will begin, and it's quite a long tournament, the format that we're going for. And then how we blended, this is for Arena, by the way, how we blended that into things like content creators. It's a pretty cool concept where instead of us going to content creators and saying, hey, can you go and play our game and go and say it's the best thing ever and whatever, they actually become coaches. So we're going after some big mainstream TFT players and saying, okay, you play the game. That's obviously part of the campaign. They say like, hey, there's this new auto battler that's out. It's awesome. But then going and working with becoming a coach, or not even a coach, or like a champion for a team that of Illuvium players, so like your favorite players that are top inside of Illuvium now get to work with some of their favorite people in terms of like other TFT players, and they will pick this team. They will go through a bunch of different online events with them, and then it'll all culminate into a in-person tournament, which we're thinking will line up at one of the really, really big crypto conferences that's coming up later in the year. So that way we get content creators, we can do a bunch of social media campaigns. It means that we can add in things like big prize pools, which is another marketing tool that we have. And that's going to be the big campaign to kickstart things for Arena. On top of that as well, we've got a feature video. As you can tell, that video is going to be jam-packed with stuff. But we're also going to be sprinkling in at the start and the end of that feature video some cinematic stuff, not a crazy amount, but it'll give you a little bit more insight into like, why do you battle in Illuvium, which is pretty cool.
Oh, interesting. So we're going to get some more cinematic story sort of stuff inside that feature video.
Yes. So that's Arena. In terms of the MMO, the biggest thing is going to be word of mouth, right? Like we right now, I think people are like, there's so much potential, and they had all of this momentum, and it just fell flat, or it fell short of people's expectations. What we want to do is say, here's multiplayer, here's combat, here's you using your alluvials to fight with you, here's weapon systems that are super unique, and you can build based on your personality, and there's so many different like branches that you can take, and whatever, and in terms of like your equipment and fusing and stuff like that. There's different regions, there's more exploration, there's quests involved, and every single time we introduce this to the community, we are wanting that, instead of us coming out and saying, hey, this is amazing, we want that cohort of people to be like, hey, I know you said Illuvium wasn't fun to play, but whoa, look at this combat now. Look at this quest that I'm completing. Look at this boss that I just took down. Like, until the point where people are like, okay, they just keep on talking about this thing. I can't go and play it. I don't have access. But what are they doing over there? Maybe Illuvium's changing. That's like slowly chipping away at this negative sentiment to a point where people are like, okay, I've heard enough. Now I want to play it. Like, can you give me an access code? Like, you obviously know the guys or whatever. Like, I need access. If we can get back to that point, which all of these things are going to be in the vertical slice, it doesn't need to blow people away. We already do that with the visuals and whatever. If we can get just enough where you and Taryn and Sam get into a raid and you go face to face with one of these ridiculously big Leviathans, and you're like, okay, this is what Illuvium's meant to be. You guys then get out of there and you start posting up tweets saying like, okay, this is completely changed. This is like all of your clickbait headlines that you guys love to do, all of that kind of stuff. That's how we're going to start chipping away at people. And it's going to be sort of like guerrilla marketing, but it can't be us telling people anymore. It needs to be showing with gameplay and features.
Yeah, gameplay goes a long way. I think a good example is Wilder World dropped their giant vision paper. I haven't read it yet. A lot of them are tweeting about, like, I don't know how no one on Twitter is talking about this and stuff like that. And honestly, I'm sure it's incredible. I've read a lot of their past devlogs and things that take like 30 minutes to read. Very, very amazing work that they're doing over at Wilder World. But no one's going to go read a giant PDF, right? No one's going to. People want to be shown things in small bite-sized clips all over their Twitter timeline, and that is how they're going to show more interest in a project. And so I'm looking forward to all these sorts of videos and things that you guys are putting together, and even the April highlight reel that Llama put together for this month was awesome. I loved seeing that. I miss them so much. We need weekly ones.
We have enough content. We could easily do weekly. It's just, he's working. He's got 4 videos to work on for the next 6 weeks. But it's kind of funny. It's like it takes so long to get to the point that we're at. And I think when we started talking about, hey, we're gonna smash Arena out with like completely transforming it with something like 12 new features, and we're gonna do it. We didn't put a date out there. Right, which is kind of crazy because like one thing that I love doing is sitting here saying like, we're going to do it in 6 months. I reckon if we had gone out in November, I think that's, November. So we're about 6 months. If I'd have said like in 6 months, we're going to have 12 new features, and we're going to have a carousel, we're going to have weapons, we're going to have rangers, we're going to have, spectator mode, everything. People would be like, the guy is smoking crack again. Like, get him off that pipe, right? Like, we've actually gone and done it now. Like, people are playing these things, and all of these features exist. There's a couple that are left, which will be done in July. But that's a weird situation where I've stepped back. I'm like, I don't want to talk about it. Let's just show people. And I think that's the way that we're going to build back this trust. Now, we're in the exact same position with the MMO. The fact that you're sitting there being like, we might get the MMO in 2025. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, dude, yeah, we have to. That's not on the table. That you can start to go, okay, well, if they did it with Arena, I still don't believe them because it's Illuvium and it's, Kieran saying this shit, but it makes you, there's a little seed of doubt that's sprouting in there, and you're like, do I really want it to, like, people are jumping back on. We've gone from $10 to 16. They're like, it's that meme in GTA where he's like, here we go again, and he's running it back up. Like, you can't, if this works and we go and build things really quickly, and in 3-4 months, people have something in their hands where they're like, okay, this is the Illuvium that I thought, it's probably too late for the investors out there. Like at that point, there's people who are willing, cowboys who are like, I'm going to punt on this. I was screwed the first time, but this time it's going to be different. And then it comes off. That's going to push things where other people are like, damn it, it was right under my nose. I loved Illuvium and this was what it was meant to be. Damn those guys, So that's the sort of position we're in, where there's so much front loaded. It's not like we're a brand new studio anymore. We've been here for 5 years. We've got a team of veterans and we know where we went wrong. So when I say we can build quickly now, I really, really mean it. And that's the plan.
I was very excited. As you said, I won't believe it until I see it. Once I see the boss battle, if you get that out in like May or June, then I'll become like a true believer of the 2025 virtual slice. So vertical slice, sorry. So you'll have to wait until then, I'm afraid. So
yeah, so, me and you both, gang. I think I've got about $4.50 left in my wallet.
Okay, so the next thing is 5 years in, or three years after this, who's the ideal Illuvium player in your eyes? Is it a crypto native, a competitive gamer, a casual Web 2 gamer, or something else entirely?
Look, there's always going to be multiple cohorts, right? Like the ideal is not just, hey, we want a Web 2 traditional player, right, that spends $50 a year on gaming content in their favorite game. Like, getting millions and millions and millions of those guys is great, and we absolutely want that. But we're never going to sit there and say, because we've got that cohort, we actually don't want the massive whales in crypto land because they don't like gaming as much. Like, no, like, we want healthy cohorts coming from each demographic, from each area, whether it be traditional or crypto, and they both have their place, right? Like a whale that can come in and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars in a game just because they're like, I love this. This gives me the nostalgia of Pokemon. We want them. We want many of them. We're just talking about how we wanted to get landholders made whole. We need them, plus we need the traditional players. So there's a lot.
Love to hear it. So here's an interesting one. What's one thing in particular that Illuvium is doing that competitors won't see coming, but you're confident it will hit really hard when it lands?
I think we sort of covered it. It's going to be it all coming together, which I know that's not the answer that you want and whatever, but as I mentioned before, there's people who are like, how did they fuck this up, right? Like, and I think the answer is pretty simple when you look at it. We launched 2 years early, right? Like, we had a beautiful shell of a game and it had all of the components there, and it just wasn't put together correctly. It was like everyone was off on their own building, saying, I want the characters to be the best. I want the regions and the environments to be the best. We want the traversal mechanics to be the best. Like all of these teams went off and built, and then in terms of fitting it all together, it was such a mad rush to get to that point that we didn't do that well. And I think when people see a game that looks as beautiful as ours with so much content, like quest after quest after quest that you can go through, bosses that you can beat, loot drops that make you go, oh my God, I've got this. No one else in the world has this. And I can verify that because it's on chain. Like, and look at how beautiful it is. It comes up on the screen as the best looking NFT you've ever seen in your life. That is the point where people will be like, shit, they're way, way ahead. You know, like didn't see that coming. And I think for the most part, that's what people were expecting. That was the hype that was there. And we just didn't deliver on that. So but having said that, I spend a lot of time looking at other games, playing other games. And there are a few out there now where you could say like, yeah, they're still early and they're building and, they're in similar situations to us where they just need to get things out because they have a token or whatever, but they're building quite nicely. But there's not more than a handful, right, that have the potential to really come out and be the first mainstream game that has success. I think Off the Grid was a really, really good example. And yes, it's not as good as its first-person competitors, but it's super early. Can it transform into that? Yes, it can. I think there's a few challenges there, but it has the potential. There's not many, and there's certainly none in our genre, right? Like there's no one doing it in the RPG creature capture space. And I think if we can just nail these gameplay features, and here's the, like, to the investors out there again, if I'm looking at this and I take off my Illuvium hat and I'm just like investing, I don't need to see the fully polished version before I think they've learned their lesson. Like we need to allocate some funds to this. I just need to see a rough version. I need to see quests. I need to see that content. I need to see exploration. I need to say, not, hey, they just use their auto battle. They're using their own brand of combat that's really, really awesome and in depth. If I see that and I'm like, okay, now it's going to be a little bit of time for them to go away and build the polished version of that, I'm already in. You've got my money, and I think that's the cool thing for us is we're really close to that. And then it's going to take some time for us to polish it up and publish it and do that big marketing campaign. But really, we get to see a nice positive outcome probably after this vertical slice. And that's what I'm telling the team internally. We need to go nuts at this. We need this out as soon as possible. It doesn't matter if it's not crazy polished. We're still way more polished than 99% of games out there, and people who have invested millions and millions into other games. If we get to this vertical slice and people are like, holy shit, this is the Illuvium we wanted, we'll be in a very good position.
I like the way you're talking about that. I think you're right that it doesn't need to be perfectly polished. It just needs to be more polished than others. And the beauty of having all the front-loaded art is you can just plug a bunch of that in and it'll look still pretty polished, even though it won't, like mechanically, it might be a little bit janky, but it'll still look visually, it'll look like a complete game, even though it's not quite there yet. I think that's really cool. So on that note, though, you've mentioned plans to raise capital since early 2025. Are there any VCs or strategic partners locked in? Is the door still open? And like, there's a lot of doubt around VCs backing Web3 gaming right now. Are you seeing the same, or what's happening with all that?
Well, I made placements in I think like 60 different seed rounds for games. The amount of games that just plain out ghost us now just didn't launch anything, and you don't even get anything back. I'm like, how is this legal? Like, it's obviously not, right? And like to not even say a message and say, like, some do. There's others that just flat out they just fuck off. They just don't say a single word to their investors and whatever. Think about how I'm a tiny percentage of investors in this space. There's firms out there that have deployed hundreds of millions of dollars that just poof up in smoke. And so, and a lot of that is starting to come to light now. Like there was the whole like, oh, in 2024, to give you a bit of perspective, because maybe people don't realize this, but throughout 2020 to 2021, that's when there was a frenzy of games that were getting funding. Everyone was trying to get a piece of the seed round. There's stupid valuations for the dumbest things out there. And I was like, yeah, put me in. Then the bear market hit and everyone was sort of shielded by, oh, we could launch, but we don't want to because it's the bear market. And everyone's like, okay, well, that seems fair enough, right? Like, let's chalk it up. I'll go tell my boss, well, this is what happened. The bear market hit. They don't want to launch the token in this market. The boss guy goes, yeah, tell them definitely don't do that. Makes sense, right? Then 2024, we get to late stage. Trump comes in and or Trump gets elected. He wasn't inaugurated yet, and things start going crazy. And then VC's like, hey, you like now's the time. Bitcoin's going to hit its ATH. ETH was up there. Sol pumping out of the moon. And they're like, where's your token? It was at that point you're knocking and just no one's home, right? And so I think at that point they were like, God damn it. Not only did we get played, we got played twice. We got played that, hey, we're still here, we're building. No one was like, they just had stopped building. And so all of that has started compounding, and VCs now are like, gaming is this like red-headed stepchild. It's just like, screw that thing. Like, now every now and again, little Johnny, the redhead, he's going to be really good and he's going to go and do something in life and it's going to be amazing. And everyone's going to be like, why didn't we think about him? And so there is still hope there and there's still a little bit of interest. But people have been burnt so badly in this space that they're very, very cautious. Now, the thing that is interesting with our position is there's a lot of vested interest already, right? Where there's a lot of sunken money into us. And if we're showcasing with what we have in runway left, where we don't need anything more, and which is where we're at, we showcase arenas ready. Here's the vertical slice. Here's a cinematic of what the overworld is going to turn into. Here's the feedback from people that tried that vertical slice. At that point, if all of those things are really positive, what's going to happen? The token price is going to go up as well. Given there isn't some additional catastrophic, external market thing that hurts us, if all that's going well, token price is going to go up. Those investors are like, okay, we've already put in 5 mil, 10 mil, 2 mil. Let's give them another 50% because they're so close. And now we can see it. And actually, if we look at the timeline, it probably lines up with when most people build a really good game, that 5-6 year mark. So we're in a pretty lucky position. I'm not saying that it's going to be easy, but by no means. We need to show all of those things. They all need to be tick, tick, tick. Then you walk into the VC. I'm not even willing to walk into a VC now because I would say get fucked if I was on the opposite end of that. But if we nail those things, as I said, I took my Illuvium hat off and I'm sitting here as an investor, I would be like, God damn it. I cannot believe I'm putting more money in this. And I'd be telling my wife, we've got to do it. Trust me, I believed in this team. They're going to do it. And now they're just about to do it. And you get into that position and it's like, I have to do it. That's where we need to put investors. And I'm not saying it in like a bad way or whatever. It's like, hey, we are going to do this. As I said, we're not going to stop. We'll sell our own tokens if it comes to it, And so, but there's a really big opportunity if they want to jump on board and add more in. and it solidifies what they've already put in as well. So that's kind of where we're at, but I'm not willing to do that until we get the vertical slice out. And we've got plenty of runway, so we have that up our sleeve. So that's where we're at.
Yeah, I love to hear it. I love your confidence. I always tell everyone that you're the best at raising capital in all of crypto. It's your special superpower, and you seem to do a pretty good job with it. People, I've underestimated that myself, but I've seen you work at that for long enough now that I know that you can definitely pull it off. But part of that is what it needs to happen first before you can pull it off. And a lot of people forget that part of things, but you've had that plan because I've been on the council since last year, right? You've had that plan since January. This exact same plan. You know exactly where you want Illuvium to be and when, and that's what you're pushing towards. And I think people need to acknowledge that. I think that's exciting. I'm hoping we get more capital if we need it, but I'm more hoping we get a lot of revenue. We don't need it.
Look, I don't need people to acknowledge that. I see the amount of people that say, he has no idea what he's doing and he can't raise more money and no one gives a shit. It's all noise to me. I put my blinkers on. I know that if we can get to this stage, we will look like an attractive investment, and not just will look like, we will be. And therefore that it's not a sell at that point. It's I'm coming to you saying, this is an opportunity. I would invest in this myself, and I can only do it when I would invest in it myself. If I don't believe in it, I just can't do it. And so, it's definitely not, any crazy like superpower or whatever. It's just belief in ourselves that, hey, if we get to this point, fuck, you're an idiot not to put more money in this because of where it's going to go. And that is the best position a founder can be in. And if you have doubt going into VCs, trust me, they'll tell you, oh, that sounds great, amazing, awesome, we're so in, we love that. You shut that door and they look at each other and they say, what a fucking idiot, right? Like, I don't want that. And I'm sure it's happened multiple times before with us, but I don't want that. And I want to reduce that as much as possible. And so that's why you're seeing it from the inside. Like, he's laser focused on that. It's not going to change no matter what anyone says.
Love to hear it. So the other thing that kind of needs to happen before then actually is we should just quickly talk about blockchain. So how technically challenging would it be to move to immutable ZK EVM? As we know, they're merging the legacy chain and ZK EVM going into at the end of 2025. They plan on merging them before 2026.
Look, it's not a technical limitation from our standpoint. It's just time, and it's going to pull. While it's blockchain, we actually don't have a principal blockchain engineer anymore. In the downsizing, we ended up getting rid of that department just because it was like IMX works. Moving to ZK EVM is going to mean that there are improvements across the board with the UX of the entire platform, but it's not going to be why everyone starts going, oh, I love Illuvium again. It's just not. And so it's kind of weird. Like, Robbie and the team are like, they're really good. Like, they're constantly like, come on, like, we'll do it for you. I'm like, and to be fair, we're pretty much the only ones that are still on immutable.
You are.
And so they're like, get fucked. We want to get rid of this. We want to deprecate it, and you're sitting here, and you're one of our main projects, so we can't do it. But at the same time, like, we need to. And I'm like, just give us another like 6 to 12 months. If we can do what we're saying we're going to do, we'll have all the time in the world to build a blockchain team, do the migration. You guys won't have to do it for us. We can do it. But right now, it is not a priority, not even close.
Yeah, a lot of people seem to think that a blockchain determines how many players you get in your game. No, I personally think everything should go multi-chain, but that's just me. Okay, yeah. So the last question I've got for you today, all right, to wrap this one up. If you had to bet on one Illuvium title going viral first, Arena, Overworld, Zero, or the MMO-Lite, or even Leviathan, which one would it be and why?
We said viral. Look, I don't think so. Arena, while I think it's going to be a very good game that can compete with TFT, outside of the token price pumping to the moon and us going and being able to run like a $2 million, $3 million, $4 million, $5 million tournament that doesn't even scratch the surface of our rewards, I don't see Arena going viral, right? Like that would be a viral moment. The MMO though, right? Like a proper, hey, this is like the Pokemon games, except the cards, you collect them, and then 25 years later, a Charizard is worth millions of dollars. This is the game side of that, the digital version where you can have ownership, and it actually makes sense. It's not just some weirdo, NFT collection where people are like, it's the art, we love it. It's a proper use case for like, hey, this makes the game so much better. I can trade these things. There's a marketplace, all of that kind of stuff. I think that, has the potential to go viral as one of the first game, or the first game that gets proper mainstream attention and is a creature capture that offers something that Pokemon, Power World, none of those games have. That would be a pretty viral moment, and I think the MMO has got a real good shot at that.
Love to hear it. Is there anything else you want to leave us off on before we wrap this one up?
No, I think that's it. Are you going to be playing later tomorrow morning?
I'm kind of bummed out because it's not the testnet build, like the fun one with the augment crates and stuff. But that being said, I have to play in the first ever official tournament. I can't not. And so I'll be there. I probably, if I'm like getting crushed in like the first hour or two, I might drop off. But yeah, I'll be there.
Awesome. Good stuff. Well, thanks very much, Scoriox. This is going to be one of many, many AMAs that we do over the next like 2 or 3 months, as in like not specifically, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm saying with other creators, I'm planning on going back out. I've been so very, very silent up to now, as you've seen on like my Twitter and whatever. But now that we're starting to have a really, really good product to showcase, I want to get out and confidently tell people. And so, yeah, I appreciate you being the first here. It's pretty fitting. And yeah, thanks again, man.
If you want a piece of advice, what I think you should start doing, I think you really should start doing this. Grab one of the leaks that people are giving you and stuff like that, silo it off and show it off during each AMA, like a different one. Just like you've got so many of them in the backlog, they're going into the April leaks and stuff like that. Just grab one every now and then, silo it off, hold it to yourself, say, no one show this. I've got it for X or Y AMA, and that will give the creators something to go, Kieran has a leak showing something along these lines or whatever like that. Like right up front, get people excited and people get to like find that little treasure trove, that little Easter egg inside each AMA, and it'll make them all feel really individual, special. It'll be exciting for everyone, I think.
Are you suggesting that I send you a leak now that is probably going to get Roger kill me?
That's not what I was intending to do, but I'm not going to say no.
All right, I'm going to message you this. To be fair, I'm not even going to say his name, but yeah, I may get in big trouble. Actually, he's online. If he doesn't write back in 2 minutes, then it's his fault, right? We can go with that?
Sure. What I'm really surprised about is I do remember you showing me combat and sending out an alluvial in the overworld a long, long time ago in the council. I'm surprised that hasn't made it to the surface before. I don't think that's ever been shown to the community.
Combat?
Yeah, remember you had one where he was running around Brightland Steps and he had 1 or 2 alluvials out, like right at the start, like when they first were testing shit. I don't think that actually went to public.
No, we did we showcased a little bit of the combat in the conference presentation that I did. I'm sure that had combat.
Maybe. I'm not
Did it?
sure. I'm not sure.
Oh shit, he's typing. He's gonna be like, "Don't you dare!" Let's see what he says. Come on. All right, we're gonna do it. I'm gonna send this to you. Now, remember, this is full work in progress. That's Roger.
Yeah.
So this is the concept of the boss that you'll fight in the vertical slice.
Holy shit. I almost want to keep this to myself now.
Wait. Oh, wait. Actually, I can give you an updated version.
Is this a Leviathan or no?
It's a boss. I'll give you an updated version.
I'll show both of them.
I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you here. Yeah.
Are you sending an updated one or? Yep.
Yeah. And this is not scripted for anyone.
No,
As you can see, this is pretty clunky what we're doing. Okay. Okay, there we go.
Oh, I think I get it. What the fuck? Did Roger, by the way, did Roger have this in his back pocket before the new co-directors came in? Or was this a part of
No.
it?
Roger can do a concept in it's disgusting. Like he can do concepts, I'm not even joking, in like 15 minutes. The elephant, the scion
Matmut, yeah.
Mahmoud, he did that in like 15 minutes, literally. Like I'm not even joking.
It's one of my favorite alluvials too. All right, ready, guys? So here's the initial. Here's the initial one. Some sort of boss, did you say, in the MMO-Lite?
This will be the boss that you fight in the vertical slice. One of the quest lines.
All right, and here's an updated version of the concept. Like, because the first thing I think, whoops, I don't know what's there. The first thing I think is like it's trying to mimic a Fisto to a great degree. And so it's making me think like all the alluvials, some sort of mechanoid enemy has copied them and copied their abilities in some way, probably has similar abilities to a Fisto. And then that's the opponent you're coming up against.
Let your mind run wild.
All right, so we better wrap it up here. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Thank you so much, Kieran, for sharing that with me. And yeah, is there anything else you want to say before we wrap this one up? We close it out? No?
Nope. That's it. Thanks, man.
All right.
Appreciate it.
And with that, the download is complete. Have a good one, guys.